astronauts, this is Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. And if it's your first time here, welcome. As I said, my name is Brandy and I like to combine astrology and tarot to give you everyday, real-world, practical insights that you can use to guide your decision making moving forward. I have 15 years of experience when it comes to astrology and tarot, and I like to combine that and use that within my readings. Now, this week's reading is very special. I wanted to know, what is this lucky break that we might be having in love? Like, we always talk about what's coming next, and that can be good, that can be bad, but sometimes it's good just to hear the good news. What are some positive things that may be unfolding for us next when it comes to love? So, as always, I have 5 piles to choose from, but before we get started, I do want to let you know you should like, comment, and to subscribe. And also, disclaimer, as I said before, I'm a practical, everyday, real-world reader. This is a reading that is focused more so on lucky breaks, but I like to tell you guys what I see, and sometimes that's not always, that great. Granted, I don't think that'll come up too much in this reading, but, you never know. And so if you're in a sensitive place in your life and you are, looking for validation, or maybe you just want to pick me up, I may not be the reader for you. I am using tarot in order to channel what could be possibly happening in the real world. And as we all know, life comes with its ups and downs. Now, before we jump into these cards, I also want to remind you to get a private reading from me. If you have some question that needs deeper insights, that you would like to reflect on, or that you feel the need to gain some clarity into, then booking a private reading with me can assist with that. And the link can be found in the description bar below. You can go to my Etsy shop, or you can go to the booking form. The booking form will allow you to go through Cash App, as I believe Etsy doesn't have the Cash App option. So I just wanted to say that. So anyway, let us get into these piles. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. Now, I also want to say, feel free to like, comment, and to subscribe, and join me for the lives. I go live on the weekends, and then I pop up during the week, guys. So you might want to join me there. Other than that, just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey, pal number 1, let's get into, your lucky break in love and what's coming next for you. We have the Knight of Cups, the 8 of Swords, the Lover's card, and the Empress on the After Tarot deck. So you can see here she's vibing. She's got some swans next to her. From a ugly duckling to a swan. That's always what I think of when I think of the swans. And they're happy. There's a big home there. And she's living her life, She's feeling good about everything. More nurturing, more love, more everything. And so I feel like that is exactly what's coming in for your love life. To some degree, maybe you have felt like, I don't know, maybe this is crazy language, but maybe for some of you at some point in your life, you felt like the ugly duckling, right? And now in this stage in your life, maybe you've gone through a glow up, or maybe you're just more in love with yourself. And you recognize your value and you recognize your worth, and you start moving from that place. So what that looks like is making choices that make you happy. If someone is not aligned with who you are or what you want within a relationship, well, it's very much like you're ready to move on. And I really do think that this lucky break when it comes to love has to do with a lot of self-esteem, has to do with looking out for yourself, has to do with valuing your opinion more so than anyone else's. It's really more so about, how can I have a healthy love life that makes me feel good? And you're really not thinking about too much all of the weird back and forth, and you're in your mind, you're like, you know what? I think I'm done with that. You've ended this chapter within your life. Or at least you're going towards that way. Because we have this Knight of Cups energy. And the Knight of Cups, when we talk about lucky breaks in love, is having a beautiful romantic time. There's some things about the Knight of Cups that can be a little bit chaotic. But then there's also some things that can be fantastical and wonderful. Like the Knight of Cups is that card that can connect to sort of these big gestures. And it's like, I'm going to give you, I don't know, 20 dozen roses. And we're going to go on some sort of romantic curated evening with candlelight and music, and there's this beautiful walk on the beach, and we're going on a trip to Paris. I don't know, right? I mean, maybe if they have the funds for it. But there is this strong romantic energy. And you also see an approach that someone is taking towards you when it has to do with emotional openness. And if you're in a relationship, I think this is very fitting, especially since we have this Knight of Cups right next to this Eight of Swords. So we know the Knight of Cups is someone who wants to continue to grow emotionally, who you know, they may start off young, they may start off naive, they may not know what to do when it comes to how to support someone emotionally, or even how to support themselves, right? But they're always trying, and they're always growing, and always learning. So number one, you're going to try, you're going to learn, you're going to grow. That's a lucky break in love. A lot of people do not do that. That never happens for them, right? There is a reason that people love emotional intelligence, right? When you have that sense of self-awareness, when you have a lot more emotional regulation and control, when you're someone who's vulnerable, open, honest, that energy attracts a lot of people. And I feel like you're growing in that direction. And because you're growing in that direction, you're attracting more people like this. You're getting out of this space of this Eight of Swords. And there are some positives that I've seen with the Eight of Swords, right? Like the Eight of Swords, sometimes they are very careful about what they say, which is not bad, right? The Eight of Swords is like, you know what? I'm going to choose my words wisely. That's something I've seen that's very positive that connects to the Eight of Swords. And I think part of that growing and part of that emotional intelligence can deal with you choosing your words wisely, or attracting people who are people who think before they speak. For sure. Like they try to picture themselves in someone else's shoes to the best of their ability. And they're like, okay, maybe it may not be so great to say things like this, you know? And that's what I see when we go into this. This lucky break when it comes to love it's you entering this version of you that sets a new tone and attracts better attachment, better treatment, and better people. Things that help sustain healthier dynamics. Love to see the Lover's card in love readings. I know it can be controversial sometimes because some people feel like it has this, you know, karmic, you know, star-crossed lovers feel to it. I haven't had that experience with the card. When I see the Lovers, I generally get people who, they just flow together. Like, it's just very nice and easy. You know how sometimes you meet someone and you might really like them as a person, but there is no conversational chemistry. There is nothing in common. And there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. You guys just weren't meant to be. But when we start to think about these lucky breaks in love, that's when we start to see this feeling of chemistry, this feeling of like, oh, you like doing that too? You know, I also like to skateboard, you know, or, you know, I was just thinking about how I've always wanted to get married in Paris. And they're just like, you know what? I was just there for a wedding and I was thinking that to myself and how this would be the perfect spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are the things that I'm just giving random generic examples. I don't know if these are conversations people are having, but it's just, you have a flow, you have a connection, you have a vibe going, and it's just easy. And I really do like that for you. And then we also have this we have this Venus in the third house energy, or a Gemini, house of communication, house of intimacy. I know we don't always think of the third house as intimacy, but I've seen it in my own studies. Not only is it 8 from the 8th, which is an indication of intimacy, But I've seen the third house come up a lot. Like when people have planets in their third house, certain planets, especially like the sun and Mercury, etc., they tend to have a lot of children, right? And it has to do with, you know, the hands being this feeling of intimacy, communication, being this open box of dialogue, because what is love but a dialogue, right? And there is a lot of connection when it comes to love, coming together, vulnerability, intimacy when it comes to the third house, right? And so my point that I'm making here is that your luck when it comes to love is that you meet people that you have this strong chemistry with, that you are drawing people in who can match a level of depth, who maybe, I don't know, it depends. If you've always wanted to, you know, get married, have kids, this would be attracting that energy. You know, normally I don't say things like that, but, you know, with the Lovers card there and the Empress and then that Gemini energy, not that Gemini particularly connects to marriage, but it can connect to finding someone who you want to build a life with, for sure. That's something that is important. You know, I really like that there's this energy of self-growth with this pal. I know you guys want to get into like what's happening to me and, you know, all of the things that may happen outside of you in external circumstances and your luck just transforming and changing. But I think it's you that's changing your luck. I think it's a lot of you and also a bit of fate, because we have the minor arcana over here and then we have the majors over here. And so to me, it feels as like you take action first, and because you take action, the universe opens up its doors and gives you these strong possibilities and connections that you feel like, oh wow, this is exactly what I want. And if you're already in a relationship, then this is something that's like, oh, our communication has improved. There's more humor. There's more curiosity. There's a lot of mental intimacy. There's a strong attraction. There's a lot of exchanging of ideas. Like it just feels as if we've gotten to a deeper place within our relationship, and we have this sort of shared narrative when it comes to how we expect things to play out. You know, matching expectations, matching depth, chemistry with something that you can build towards. And this is what I mean. Whether you are in a relationship or whether you're single, that should be happening on both fronts. So I do want to get into that and say, that this is what I see for you. You know, I feel as though there are romantic sparks coming in. Especially when we talk about the Knight of Cups, it's like, okay, I've met someone and they've really charmed me and they smooth talk me. The Knight of Cups, he's a very smooth talker. He's very complimentary. He's very flirtatious and he's doe-eyed as well. and he just wants to come in and sweep you off your feet and tell you everything you want to hear and whisper sweet nothings. And, you know, sometimes he may overpromise, but this is, you know, a lucky break, right? And so you might meet this Knight of Cups figure who's actually trying to keep their promises and actually trying to come through on their word. You know, even if they come in hot. On this card, on the African American Tarot deck, we have, and I don't want to even guess the figure because there's a lot of different figures and backstories to them, but I don't have the book with me, and so there's a person, they're riding on top of a bunny, and we know how rabbits are. They're extremely fast. They come in hot, right? And to me, I feel like that is the energy of this person. This luck in love is like somebody's coming in hot and they are ready and open and willing to form a connection with you. And this connection feels natural. It feels as if you aren't, how do I say this? It feels honest. It feels sweet. It feels fantastical. It feels like, I don't know, there's a part of it that feels almost like you're living in some sort of romantic comedy or something like that. Maybe not a comedy. I guess it doesn't have to be a comedy, but it feels like some sort of romance movie. And there's aspects and layers to it that have these very nice meet cutes. And you meet in this unexpected way. You know, you bump into each other in a parking garage. I don't know, maybe that sounds scary. But you bump into each other in some sort of hallway. There's lots of ways people meet that are completely out of the blue. But you could bump into each other parking. It doesn't have to be a parking garage, but maybe it's a parking lot. I've definitely seen that happen. You end up having a short conversation, you exchange numbers, and boom, something like that unfolds. But that is what I have for you, pile number 1, when it comes to you being lucky in love and what's unfolding and what's happening. If you would like a private reading by me, feel free to go to the link in the description bar and we can learn more about what's unfolding for you in love or any other aspect of your life, or at least any other aspect that I'm willing to do. I do have boundaries. And I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, astronauts, pile number 2. Let's get started on, what is your lucky break in love? So we have the Queen of Cups, the Knight of Pentacles reversed, 10 of Cups reversed, and the 6 of Swords on the Astro-Tarot deck. They've made it to land. They finally reached their destination. So when we get into what this means for being lucky in love, I automatically think that this is an opportunity for emotional vulnerability and openness. Now, this reminds me of a similar pile in the sense that when it comes to your luck, there is a lot of that you're making yourself through the fact that you are growing and developing and becoming wiser as you move through life. There is this element of creating your own vibes, your own luck, your own sense of, happiness in your life, which is really good. And then also what I see here when I get the 10 of Cups reverse and the Knight of Pentacles reverse, sometimes this is us workshopping our idea of happiness or our idea of happy ending, right? And so your luck when it comes to love is that you're able to see beyond the veil, see behind the curtains and finally see the wizard for what it is. Sometimes people have this, and I'm not saying you're this person, and this is just an example, just to be clear. Sometimes people have this idea of marriage in their head and they think marriage is this wonderful fantasy. You get married, it's happily ever after. You meet some perfect guy or woman and everything is sunshine and daisies, but in actuality, marriage is generally for people who are highly disciplined and who like hard work, just being honest, like from an astrology perspective, think about the only planet that is exalted in the house of marriage, and that's Saturn. And everybody's scared of Saturn return, big bad Saturn, because it's about accountability. It's about showcasing your flaws. You are literally your worst person ever within a relationship, meaning when we get in relationships, we reveal sides of ourselves that we typically wouldn't show someone. So that's what I mean when we say, we're worse selves in a relationship. You're going to get triggered. And so marriage is not this fun fantasy. And I feel like part of your luck is realizing that. And I'm not just saying specifically marriage. I'm just kind of saying the ideas of love are being changed and transformed. That is pretty much all. And I'm just using what I said as an example. It doesn't have to be that specifically. And so that becomes a part how you're being lucky in love, because now you have this more grounded perspective. Literally, we're landing on the ground. We're out of the water. And water connects to that sense of fantasy and imagination. And we are on the solid ground. So I really do like that. This vibe shift is allowing you to stay aligned with your standards, being the person that you are, meaning you attract what you are. And that is something that is very good because you're rising to meet some standards that, maybe somebody else, they might have all these standards, but they can't meet them. I feel like you're the opposite. You're taking a look at yourself and you're just like, well, how can I improve so that I am a asset to somebody else's life? And then obviously you're going to look for that the same. You want someone to be an asset to your life. Also, when we talk about the Knight of Pentacles reverse, sometimes the Knight of Pentacles, when he's upright, he can be a little bit stubborn. He is so one-track minded and wanting to reach his goals. When we get it reverse, this is kind of like saying, all right, I want to, maybe I've been going about this the wrong way. I always say the Knight of Pentacles in reverse is recalculating. Maybe we could do this different. And so this becomes about letting go of rigid expectations and standards. You know, one thing I love to watch is I love to watch matchmaking series. You know, shoot me, I love matchmaking, love Indian matchmaking. And on TikTok, if you talk about, I swear, one of my, you know, I don't know, trigger words or, you know, how the algorithm finds me is if you have matchmaking in your video tagged, I'm gonna be there in the comments, reading through, looking, watching the videos. Essentially, I love following a matchmaker and I love following a matchmaking journey. Anyway, now when I'm mentioning this matchmaking process is that sometimes during the matchmaking process, people have wild standards. You know, like these standards are absolutely over the top. And this Knight of Pentacles, when he's upright, he's listing all of these different things that he would like in a partner. He's like, you know, I want to be with someone who is handsome or beautiful. I want to be with someone who makes like 200K a year. I want to be with someone who is the most kind and loving and giving person in the entire world. And they have a wonderful family and they've been to therapy and and they are giving to charity. It's just like, okay, the standards are very out there, right? And when the Knight of Pentacles is reversed, he's like, okay, actually, maybe I should really look at my expectations that I have. And this is something that I've seen constantly when looking at matchmaking, when looking at dating shows. You see people needing to realign their expectations for reality. So part of that luck is realigning of the expectations. And I'm not saying that you've been over the top or anything like that, because I don't want to make any accusations, but I'm just saying that maybe there's just some adjustments that needed to be made. Trust me, me in my own life have had to make some adjustments. So I know how painful and hard that process is being, to just kind of call yourself out and say, actually, is that really that important, right? And so I really do think that that's really interesting here. What you're realizing is that the sense of growth and, I guess, understanding when it comes to relationship has to do with responsibility. Responsibility to yourself, responsibility to your partner, maybe even family, if you want a family, or if you want to expand a family. It all has to do with looking at things long term and determining if you have that values match. So I really do love that you are having these evolving expectations and you're allowing these healthier connections to form. We also have this Six of Swords here. Oh man, you finally made it out the trenches, pal number 2. Like, seriously. I don't know what's been going on in this dating love life that has been happening, but you have finally made it out of those rocky waters and away from that chaotic environment. And so if you have been wondering if the next stage in your dating life is going to attract some harsh individuals, people who have been inconsiderate, people who have poor communication, people who self-sabotage, people who are not as considerate, people who are misaligned, people who are looking out for themselves, you're moving out of that. It's over. That is done, pal number 2. And I'm not saying that the worst is over. But I'm saying, because I don't want to overpromise anything. You know, I don't want you to come back and say, Brandy, I just ran into the worst nightmare dating situation. But I do want to say that you have reached a stage. So let's say you had a frequency and you know, almost every other date was a nightmarish date. Now, you know, you get out of those rough waters and it's just like every now and then you meet some troll who's just a jerk and you're like, you know what, I'm out. So this is what I mean. The frequency becomes much less. You're in this calmer state. You're in this solid grounded state. And to be honest, you know, it feels as if you're establishing a new norm for yourself. That is what I see here when I get this Six of Swords, because they are going from one new country and they're hitting this other new place or land. I mean, it doesn't have to be a new country, but they're in a new city, a new territory, a new place, right? So there's different norms. There's different standards. And that's what's happening here when it comes to your love life. So hopefully that is some good news here. as we talk about this journey. And really what I love to see about this is there's a lot of love for yourself here. I think I might have seen this with another pal, where there is some strong self-love, where there is this feeling of feeling complete within yourself and always choosing yourself, you know, very much Sex and the City, Samantha. I love you, but I love me more. And that's going on here when it comes to your dating life. Lastly, what I want to see here is that I feel as though because we have this Six of Swords energy here, this is definitely leaving the past behind. And it's not just about past behaviors and circumstances. It's like if you have like some sort of ex who hits up your phone, blah, 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 like blocked, there, it's over. Like the past is done. We've moved on from that. So I do want you to know that if you've been in a stage in your relationship that's been tough and you've really had to work through that, the communication, the relationship, the ups and downs, all of that, this is getting out of that stage and finally being able to use the tools that maybe you have learned through that time period and enact them moving forward, right? You've gotten something out of that and you're taking it with you as you move forward, like this Six of Swords. They're taking some swords out of the boat. They said, hey, these are actually kind of useful. I'm going to take these with me. Maybe I'm leaving just these two. Don't really need them. But these two, these three, I got it. It's good for me. That's all I need. And I really do feel like there's just a lot more positivity coming within your life and a lot more rest and relaxation. Like you can pause a little bit more. You don't have to think as hard. You don't have to, I don't know, you don't have to essentially, sometimes the Ten of Cups, it's like I'm doing things to keep the group happy, to keep the relationship happy, to keep everything going, right? I'm the one who is always bringing the umbrella. I'm the one who is always, you know, I don't know, making the first move to apologize and to keep the family together and keep the peace. And for me, when I see this Ten of Cups reversed, it's like, okay, I'm coming out of any sort of people-pleasing energy where I have to be the one who is essentially, you know, keeping everything together. That is what I want to say here. And there's more balance that's coming. I say that because all sixes connect to balances. And even though we have a 10 in the reverse position, it is an ending. It does show a closure of a chapter. But to me, the heart of this reading is that it's an closing of an internal chapter and behaviors that you have enacted in the past. And closing those behaviors and closing the loop on those is allowing you to move forward to this new place. And if we're just being like more material and less spiritual and psychological, sometimes this is just luck and love, like you meet someone traveling. But either way, it does show that there's definitely going to be a routine change, right? Knight of Pentacles, this is like, you know what? Typically I'm on the dating apps, but now I have met someone through natural proximity, right? You know, I meet them at the gym or cafe or class or on my commute, you know, some event, whatever the case may be, faster exit from situations. And it's just a total transformation of your dating life for the better. Now that is what I have for you, pal number 2. But if you want to expand or go deeper into what could be occurring and unfolding in terms of luckiness in your dating life, feel free to get a private reading. And private readings, we go further in depth when it comes to what is unfolding for you, and we can get a very concentrated look and personal look at your own energy that the cards are picking up on. In private readings, I love to go through the numerology. Like for here, we have a 6, then we have a 10, and you know what? That can represent 16, the Tower card here. So that can represent some shocking moments when it comes to your love life, meaning, boom, you suddenly meet someone in a way that you weren't expecting, or maybe somebody who is interested in you that you just, you know, maybe you were just going to meet a friend for lunch and then you bump into someone and you're having a conversation and you didn't even realize they were interested. You know, you weren't even aware they were flirting with you, and then they give you their number, right? Things along the lines of that. And this can go, we can go a lot deeper in those private readings. So feel free to get one, and also show up to the live sessions. Sometimes you just want to ask one question and be on your way. And the live sessions, sometimes they're detailed, but they're not as detailed as the private readings, for sure. But definitely show up there if you just want a quick question, answer to your question. And that is all I want to say for you guys. Feel free to become a member. Speaking of questions for the live, members get a free question per month. Obviously, that is not something that is going to be sustainable long term, but for now, that is the case. So if you want a member, you want your own free live question per month, then go ahead and join. Also, during the membership, we get the monthly readings, the yearly readings. We also try some experimental readings that I have planned for you guys, and that is all. And I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal, number 3. Let's get into your lucky break in love. We have the King of Cups reversed. We have the 5 of Wands, but that would also be reversed. Just my own reading style. We have the 7 of Wands, and we have the 10 of Swords reversed here. So when we talk about the King of Cups reversed, the 5 of Wands reversed, the 7 of Wands upright, and the 10 of Swords reversed when it comes to lucky in love, the first thing that I think of is your internal dialogue with yourself. Oh, I know. We're getting all psychological right now. But I mean, let's be real. The 5 of Wands, excuse me, is a card of internal struggles and fighting with yourself and beating yourself up when it comes to the matters of love. And I'm not blaming you for this, because I think it's part of our culture that we take accountability for circumstances that are outside of our control, or even circumstances that are completely normal, right? Your failed dating life is a result of your constant bad behavior, right? Or your constant poor decisions. And it's like, okay, yeah, there's probably some element of accountability there, but at the same time, lots of people, millions and billions of people have had bad dating stories, failed relationships, and things that didn't work out. That is part of life, right? And so when we get into this conversation here, this is about the internal conflict finally calming down. And not only that, but we have the King of Cups reverse. It's an opportunity to finally just say, you know what? Let me be honest with myself. And actually, from this point on, recognize just how much I have been through. Recognize how I have matured, how I've grown, and to step out of this headspace where you're just like, oh, I always make such bad decisions, or I date guys who are like this, and it just seems like I have this bad string of men, and I make these choices for myself. And I mean, men or women, doesn't matter what you're in, who are you into. But it's just, you get out of this space. You know, your luck comes from you changing your perspective on your dating life. And this is going to free you up from any sort of emotional exhaustion. The King of Cups reversed. I remember I got this card during the pandemic, and just from my own personal story, don't get me wrong, guys, I'm not like some sort of narcissist who just loves telling stories about myself through the cards. You know, sometimes it's easier to just recall my own stories, and then also, you know, I don't want to give away too much information about clients unless I can be vague enough, right? But during the pandemic, I got the King of Cups reversed for how certain months would be. And I was crashing out, guys. I was emotionally triggered. But what made it a little bit different from something like the Knight of Cups or something like that, or maybe even the Queen of Cups, is number one, my behavior was really affecting a lot of people behind me. Kings have a lot of power. They have a lot of control. And so the negative emotions were seeping out, and it was affecting my relationships with other people. And then two, what makes the card a little bit different is the fact that I was aware of it, right? And something tells me that you were also aware of maybe how your mindset and how your emotions or how you react to things are affecting the people around you, not only yourself. And so this next stage, this next lucky break when it comes to love, is you stop beating yourself up. You start getting out of your own way. You start being able to engage with the people around you in a more healthy manner. It's like, even if you're self-aware of stuff, you know, we still have our triggers. You know, I don't know why people think self-awareness just means that everything's going to work out. You could be the most self-aware person in the world, but it doesn't affect your, how do I say this, your reactivity level, right? And so to me, I feel like you're addressing how you react to things and what behaviors that haven't been beneficial that you've been doing based upon these emotions that have been tough to deal with. And you're tackling them to make sure you don't continue those behaviors. For example, let's say you get into a dark headspace about a relationship and you crash out, right? And you don't want to leave the bed for days, and you're in a slump and you're sad and you're just crying all the time, or you're not answering your phone, and it becomes this place where you've dug this deep dark hole for yourself, and you didn't need to do that, right? And so the King of Cups reversed is getting an opportunity to maybe work through that. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I do understand that it is possible, and you can change and you can transform. So, had to get a little psychological here. Don't know if that's resonating. If it doesn't resonate, then, feel free to choose another pal. One thing that I also see here is that I love the Seven of Wands. I love the Seven of Wands when it comes to dating, because sometimes we get the Seven of Wands. Actually, a lot of times we get the Seven of Wands to represent defending your position. But then, sometimes I've gotten the Seven of Wands to represent somebody just tells you what they want. And this next stage in your dating life, number one, you could just be saying, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for in a relationship. I was just watching a video on how, and not even just watching a video, I was just having a discussion with my mom about people having these expectations in their head about what they're looking for in a partner, but then not openly stating those expectations out loud and giving somebody the opportunity to either accept or refuse, right? And so the Seven of Wands is the energy that's like saying, I'm going to give you this opportunity to let you know what I'm all about, right? And so this is you being confident within yourself about what you desire and stating it out loud. For example, I just saw a video of this woman, and she was talking about, like, I am so open about every aspect of myself online, but one aspect of myself that I have been, hiding away, especially when it comes to dating, is the fact that I don't believe in like 50-50 relationships. Now, whatever your opinion on 50-50 relationships, trust me, I don't really care. There's no need to have that discussion in the comments. I've seen enough of it on the internet. But essentially, she was now being unapologetic about her standard. She said, no, I don't want to have a 50-50 relationship, and I'm standing on it, and I'm being direct about it, and I'm being open about it. And so this luck and this luckiness, this lucky break that's happening in love has to do with you being open about your standards, and this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I want. Okay, this 10 of Swords here on the After Tarot deck, they're being buried. They've I love the 10 of Swords because the card can be so dramatic, right? They get to this place where they have all these swords in their back, and they're like, oh, everyone's betrayed me, and everything's so dark and gloomy. And on the After Tarot deck, they're being buried. But here on the 10 of Swords here, if we're talking about it being reversed, maybe they're being revived from the dead. Maybe they've been buried too soon, that there have been stories like that, right? You have people buried alive or whatever. But what I think this is mainly saying is you're recognizing that it's not over. Your dating life is not over. You don't have to get in this place of being fully defeated and saying this is terrible and I'm never going to do better, and all of this negative self-talk that we can get into sometimes, that's done. That's not happening anymore. And what I see in coming for you with these circumstances, like if we're talking about sort of concrete things that are happening in the real world, the most common element here are the wands. And astrology, the wands connect to the first house, Aries, the fifth house, Leo, and the ninth house, Sagittarius. So when we think about what is coming in into actual real world events, you're feeling really like revitalized, right? The Aries is like, I'm giving you a fresher look, a fresher perspective, and new motivation. Like I said, this 10 of Swords energy is like, I'm being awoken from the dead, you know, I'm coming back alive like Lazarus, you know, I am breathing more life back into my dating life, and I feel a little bit more empowered. And then also that 10 of Swords reverse is like, you know what? I know love is not dead. I know love is not doomed. You know, you look at the data points and this is no longer a death sentence. You're like, yeah, I've had some situations that were not great, but this is not finite for me. It doesn't have to be this way. This is what I'm talking about here. And so, you know, you become easier on yourself when it comes to dating. You are less volatile. And when you're less volatile, you start to attract more partners that are more steady, more secure, more open, right? Secure people tend to like to be around more other secure people. But as I was going in with the wands, because I got a little bit distracted here, there's a lot I want to say. A lot I want to say. But when I talk about the wands, when it comes to Leo, this brings about more joy and fulfillment within your dating life. And it does that because with the 7 of Wands, if you're demanding the things that you want, let's say someone wants to take you on a date and they're like, hey, do you want to go to X, Y, and Z place? And you're like, not really, but I would prefer to go here instead, right? So you make the suggestion. 7, like I said, that 7 of Wands energy is very unapologetic, very upfront. This is what I'm looking for. I'd rather date here. I'd rather go here. I'm free this night. Let's meet at this time. Very much like I'm standing in it. You know, this is who I am. Another thing that happens with this energy, because we have this Sagittarius 9th house feel to it, is it definitely gives you a more open mind. But then also, I think this is leaning more so into the element of Sagittarius, where it's just like, well, number one, I don't want to meet someone who comes with drama, chaos, or who has a big ego, right? So you're leaving the people who have this big ego behind, who get caught up in themselves, who only think about themselves. That's done. Bye. And then 2, the thing that you'll see here with this Sagittarius like energy, Sagittarius is this energy of the warrior who is fighting for their beliefs, maybe even fighting for their country, but they're just like, this is what I believe. This is who I am, and I am standing in it, you know? Also, this can represent expansion through new environments. You're exposing yourself to new perspectives and people, new groups, new activities. You know, if you've never been speed dating, you're going speed dating, right? Things along the lines of that can be happening here when we're talking about that fire sign energy. So I want you to know that. And like I said, you're moving towards a more psychological shift. You're attracting more people who are less combative, or even just people who are a little too passive, because sometimes the 5 of Wands is like, we're getting out of this energy of being too passive and letting people walk all over us too. And we're standing up for ourselves. And that is definitely happening here too. But I love how this shift, every pile is so different. For you, it's all up to you, which I love that. When I see all this minor arcana, I'm like, oh, great. This person has got a lot of, hit my nail, elbow on the wall. This person has a lot of free will to enact in their life. They can take control of things. They can shift things around. This is so exciting. I love seeing this. So, you know, moving on and moving back to this is basically, honestly, getting more back to a place of peace and stability for yourself. And if you've never had that, you're definitely resetting it so that you have more calm within your life. I'm saying that because when we have the 5 of Wands reverse, sometimes he's kind of looking back, or they're kind of looking back at that 4 of Wands place where everything was happy and cozy and we all got along, and it was just like, let's get back to that, you know? And we have the Seven of Wands, right? The Seven of Wands, he's looking towards that Eight of Wands energy. And the Eight of Wands is like, oh, we've got to speed through things. We've got to jump through. We've got to go to the next thing. We've got to explore. We've got to go fast. And, you know, it's like they're ready to take action. They don't want to sit still. They don't want stagnation. And so also one thing I want to say here is if your love life has been kind of blah, 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 you know, this is your love life picking up speed. And that's a change in luck here, especially if you haven't been dating as much, for sure. So I do want you to know that, and things going along the lines of that. But ultimately, you're making some new decisions for yourself, and you're having more opportunities for spontaneous fun, invitations. You're stopping blocking yourself too, because the Five of Wands energy is like maybe people want to take you out, but you've been like pulling back and you haven't been as responsive, and you're just like, no guys, I'm in my feelings today and I don't want to do that. And it's like, oh, come on guys. You've got to get up. You've got to get out. We got to go do stuff. Accept the invitations. Say yes. And you'll realize that there's more beautiful moments to come. So that is what I have for you, pile number 3. If you don't resonate, feel free to choose a new pile. But either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. I definitely encourage you guys to get a private reading, especially if you like this reading style. The reason I say that is because the private readings offer another level of in-depthness. During the private readings, I may go more and deeper into the astrology. I also, more than likely, will do the numerology as well, because that can give us a good understanding of just what is the overall message? What's so important here? For example, we have the 5, we have a 7, we have a 10. That can add up to the number 22, which is a master number, right? 2s are about pairings, relationships, but then also that adds up to a 4 as well, which is about stability, which is about control. It connects to the Emperor card here, and it represents taking action, being brave, taking the initiative, as well as being someone who's more confident within themselves. And so we can see that the overall messages has to do with what I pretty much said before, right? It's very self-directed. It's very much you taking action. It's very much you taking initiative to change and transform your life and stepping into your power and being the emperor and boss of your own life, especially your dating life. So, you know, private readings, we go into things like that. And if you're interested in that, you know, feel free to fill out the booking form, or you can go through the Etsy shop, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And also come to the lives. I would love to see you there during the lives. We poll people, we ask questions. We even do the astrology as well. You can ask a quick question there, yes or no, in depth, if you don't want a full-blown private reading. And I would love to see you there. I go live every weekend, and hit the bell to stay notified of that. And don't forget to subscribe, because if you're not subscribed, you're missing out. And, you know, feel free to join the membership if you want something like monthlies and look-aheads and you're interested in those types of forecasts. I also do a weekly forecast during the lives. So I'm done talking, and but you got to advertise yourself on YouTube, right? You can't just say, you know, see you guys all the time. I gotta talk about things, because how are you gonna know about it if I don't talk about it? So I'll see you guys next time. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 4, let's see what some lucky breaks you might be having in love. We have the Star card. We have the Magician. We have Temperance. And we have the Tower on the After Tarot deck. Why do we have all major arcana? Okay, I guess some big things are happening in your love life. And trust me guys, as you can see, I've used 3 different decks, and I don't only read with the majors. So I'm a little shocked. All right, perfect. Good. That means some big things are happening. And when I see the major arcana, I'm not saying everything in life is fated and we have no choice and no free will. But I have noticed with the majors that it's a little bit more difficult to switch the things that might be planned for you in this lifetime, where else the minor cards have a little bit more free will to it. I'm not saying this is permanent, but it looks like this might be coming whether you want it or not. But this is a lucky break in love, so you're probably going to want it. Now, if you are somebody who is single, and the only reason I say that is because I often get the Star card to represent someone who might be keeping others at a distance. And whether you believe so or not, I don't know. Sometimes it's subconscious. Sometimes it's purposeful. Like, we have a lot going on in our lives and things can get a little bit complicated. And then on other circumstances, maybe we don't want to keep people at a distance, but it just feels as though love is always far away and out of reach. Look how this person is reaching towards the clouds, towards the sky, and it's just like, please send someone my way. Like, well, I love the fact that you see the Star card and the Magician card both extended upwards in a very similar position. So what I confer from this is the fact that these big hopes, these big dreams, these things that you have been thinking about, they're likely going to come true. Pal number 4, you are a lucky guy or a lucky girl who have chosen this pile here. And the reason I know that these are these big hopes and wishes that are going to come true is the fact that we have the Magician card. And when we talk about the Magician card, it's all about being able to be the master of your own universe, the architect of your own life. You having the choice to, I guess, manifest whatever it is that you want to. And maybe you recently made a vision board, or, you know, I'm filming this and it's like the beginning of 2026. It's January, mid-January. So a lot of people have been on their vision board kicks, and maybe like at this point, by the time this comes out, I don't know when I'm going to put it out. Sometimes I switch up the order. Maybe you start to see some things that are on your vision board come true, and you start to feel empowered, and you're starting to understand just how much control you actually have over your love life and over your life in general. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you're starting to see essentially that you have the power to allow things to unfold within your love life as well. That you can be open to opportunities, that you can put in efforts to meet people. And the only reason I say put in efforts because the Magician card's not stagnant. You could probably say that about the Star card. The Star card's just chilling, vibing there. They're still doing stuff, but they're not exactly in this speedy, active motion like you might see with the Knight of Swords or something like that. But with the Magician, they're putting on a show. You know, they've got all of the props and tools to impress and wow the crowd. And honestly, I feel like this also applies to your dating life. Even if you personally, and hopefully this is not the case, even if you personally don't see what you have to offer, I just want you to know that you have quite a lot, you know? The Star card here is someone who people kind of view a little bit out of reach. They view this person having star-like quality, if we're going to be quite literal in a sense. You know how you see celebrities, and you even have people talking about their celebrity crush, right? It's a little bit different than their office crush. The celebrity crush is like this fantasy that seems like, oh, this is impossible. There's no way I'm going to end up dating Idris Elba. You know what I mean? But you might have an office crush, and there's a possibility there that you guys might link up. There's plenty of people who have met and formed relationships and formed families from meeting in an office, you know. So there's this aspect to you that people view as very much like, oh, wow, I would be so lucky to even be with this person. This person feels like they have everything I need and more. You know, you give off dream girl, dream guy type of energy and vibes. And I think maybe part of that, like, if you're single, because I'm usually talking to the singles. Sorry, relationship girlies and guys. I'm usually talking to singles. But even if, you know, you've been single for a minute and you feel like no one talks to me, no one's asked for my number, I'm not really getting any play here, it's because, and this, I'm probably ego stroking right now, but there is an aspect of truth to this, but it is because that you do come across a bit like unobtainable. Like it doesn't seem like you would be interested. But this lucky break in love, to me, it feels as though Number one, you see your worth, you move from that place, and not only that, but you are able to accurately articulate what it is that you desire within a relationship and to create that occurrence. Number two, when we talk about the Magician card here, we're talking about someone who can be a little bit social, and maybe you feel like this is like if you're single, your dating life's been a little bit dead in the water. You start meeting more people who are interested, who you can have conversations with, who it feels like you have chemistry and things in common with. And I think that when we're looking at these cards here, especially when we're talking about Temperance and the Tower as well, Temperance is this energy when it comes to like luck within a relationship, not a relationship. I mean, yeah, it could be luck within a relationship. In a relationship, it's just representing understanding each other's perspectives and coming together, right? Anyway, but as I was saying, that could apply towards dating, right? Where maybe you've met some people who you just don't quite get or you don't click with, and you're just like, we have nothing in common here, and there's no reason to continue this. But when we're talking about the Magician and Temperance here, when we talk about the Magician and Temperance, this is like I'm meeting people who I can have conversations with, deep conversations with, philosophical conversations with, conversations about morals, conversations about psychological makeup, conversations having to do with, you know, sometimes you look at content. Like for me, I have a background in television and radio. And so one thing that happens when you have an educational background in that is that you go beyond the surface and you recognize that the director or the writer or whatever, the music, everything is a calculated choice for the most part, at least if it's a good film or television or even just in interviews and radios, whatever. Everything's a story, everything's a narrative, everything's a calculative choice. From the shoes that someone wears, from the way an actor chooses to speak, from the lighting to the angles. And so the point is you're able to have these deep and layered conversations with people that maybe you haven't been able to have before. And then also when we talk about the Temperance card here, I love this because Temperance I often get for a card having to do with standing within your morals and your principles and your values, right? So you're meeting people with very similar values and perspectives, and even if they don't have the exact same perspective on everything, you guys will be able to agree to disagree and actually see each other's point of view. You're like, you know what? Nothing you're saying is too wild, you know, like it's not outrageous to the point where I'm just like, oh no, I can't talk to you anymore. It's like, okay, I see your perspective. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you know, it's valid. You know, that's the thing I'm talking about here. When we talk about this lucky break here, I don't think that this is, what's the word for it? I don't think this is like a pal where it's like, you know, I used to date Dusties, like Sheer 7 would say. If you don't know Sheer 7, look her up, right? And then now I'm dating these millionaires. It's more so like the vibes, like, and what I mean by the vibes, I mean people's personalities. So for me, I feel as though maybe you have encountered people who you felt like personality-wise, value-wise, maybe even interest, like things you have in common, that is not exactly adding up and in the place that you would like it to be in terms of dating. That's shifting and that's changing. I think that when we talk about this, we also have clear intentions because we have Mercury and Sagittarius, and that's like, hey, I am signing a contract. You know, Sagittarius is that very much, let's lay things out, you know, like, like this is, let me make this clear for you. Think about it. When you have Sagittarius, the ninth house, this is the house of contracts. This is the house of legal matters. This is the house of rules and the law. these things have to be written out. You know, we got like, if you're looking up the law, they have like codes, they have numbers, they have amendments, they have all of this stuff. It's very detailed. And so now this tells me that you have people who are articulating their needs, their desires within a relationship, what they're looking for in dating, who they are as a person. They're very open in their energy and their perspective. There's a lot of mental balance. There's a lot of ability to remain grounded, nothing destabilizing, nothing extreme. And if you're like wondering if, like, let's say you've been in a place and you've had these toxic relationships or dating encounters and drama, this is the opposite of that. This is pretty calm. Don't worry about the tower on the end. Like, don't worry about the tower on the end. What we talk about when we talk about the tower, we're talking about the good things about the tower when it comes to the relationships and what's coming next. So when I see the tower here, the tower is talking about good surprises. Like, you're like, oh, wow, we surprisingly have a lot in common. Oh, we surprisingly have really great chemistry. Maybe we surprisingly like to do the same things, or we both like traveling, or we both have been to such and such school, or we understand that we understand each other on a level that I was not expecting. And so this is what I mean by what is happening. What are these lucky breaks in love? These lucky breaks are good surprises, meaning, you know, you have healthier attachments being formed. I say that we got temperance, means we're coming together in a healthy way. We have the truth coming out. We have people really being honest, man. Like, I don't know if we probably all met someone who hasn't been completely honest and upfront, but you're really meeting some honest people here. You are someone who is, like, you know, sometimes people have expectations that they don't articulate. That's not happening, you know, as much anymore. There's a lucky break coming here where you're meeting a people or a person who's very open and forward and honest about what they are, who they want. You know, it feels as though you're meeting people who, like I said, you see their true intentions. You are able to move on quickly if things aren't aligning. You dispel any illusions. You do your research. You are someone who has a level of freedom within these dating encounters. So you're not meeting people who are like overly possessive or whatever the case may be. You are moving at a good pace. It feels as if you're meeting people who potentially have a lot of good friendship qualities as well. And not only that, but you're meeting people who are very thoughtful. And what I mean by that is, when we get the Magician card here, Magician connects to Mercury. Mercury's very detailed oriented. And so you'll meet people who not only know your favorite color, your favorite flower, they remember all these sort of things about your childhood, the conversations you had, the experiences that you have, I don't know, gone through and done in your life. Any aspect of your being, like, this is this mercurial energy. And I've met people with strong mercurial energy, and a lot of them will have very good memories, like extremely good memories, like sometimes photographic, and they'll just know. So you'll meet some people who will pay attention, know a lot of different things about you. I'm not saying they would get to the level of photographic memory, maybe, but that's something to keep in mind. We can read this also as Mercury in the sign of Aquarius. When we talk about Mercury in the sign of Aquarius, this is a little bit more liberating, meaning you're meeting people who are more likely going to be in the position to save themselves, meaning they have a set of skills. I sound like Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson. A special set of skills. But honestly, Mercury is about independence and creating your own world and your own narrative for yourself. Then we have that in the sign of Aquarius, which would represent being somebody who can independently make their own income, because the 11th house, which is connected to Aquarius, is the income that you make from the work or the goal that you do, or the goals that you accomplish, or the accolades that you bring in, or the achievements that you bring in. So also you're meeting people who are very like high achieving, ambitious. This is the word here. Then we also have, we can read this as Mercury with in the sign of Sagittarius. This is conversations about travel, as well as a lot of short trips. So if you've always wanted to be somebody who's just like, you know what, me and my man, we're going on a short trip to Italy for a week. This is that, you know, if you're thinking about more material things, but then nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a material thing. I love it. So that's something that's like, okay, I'm meeting people who are well-traveled. I'm meeting people who want to travel with me. That's something that can be happening here. And then we can also read this as Mercury and Mars. Mercury and Mars, they come together, and to me, when I've seen Mercury and Mars come together, there's an element of skill building. And so, how do I say that? Mercury and Mars is a bit like, okay, this person is brave when it comes to what they want to ask for. They are generally going to be very fit. Mercury and Mars can be very honest. It's once again talking about that honesty energy, where I don't know if you've had that, not had that before. Also, it's going to make somebody a little bit more adventurous, because Mercury and Mars are your actions. Mercury is like, I'm making plans, I'm doing things, I have a lot of activities. You know, Mercury doesn't stay in the same sign for long. It keeps it moving, which means it's exploratory. And so this is like somebody who is more proactive about exploring and doing things when it comes to that. So you're meeting a lot of more people like that. I don't know if it's necessarily like attracting people outside of your usual type. I think this is kind of saying, and the only reason I brought that up is because sometimes I think of the Tower, I think of like, oh, surprisingly, I like you. But then we have Temperance here, and Temperance is like, I don't know, like you kind of blend in with the people I kind of typically go for. And there's some element to that, whether that be in looks or personality. Hopefully just in looks, or maybe they're just like the elevated version of what you like, because that's probably the vibe that we're getting here. But one thing I will say is there's a natural flow to it. There's a lot of consideration. So you're meeting people who are very considerate of your time, your energy. Not a lot of mixed signals. So that's something that's positive break. Well, probably hardly any, you know. I mean, I think we've been clear with this reading that there's a lot of truth and honesty with that you really seem to desire. I don't know. If you don't desire it, then feel free to choose another pal. And I don't know. It seems like because Mars rules the house of Scorpio and also rules the first house, number one, there's more chemistry. There's just a lot of that going on as well. So, I mean, and if you're the type of person who, how do I say this? If you're the type of person who is very much like, I like going to different places. Like, for example, I remember one time me and my friend, we went to like coffee omakase, right? Most people haven't done that. Right? I don't even think I've heard of people doing that. So if you're the type of person who likes doing very unique things or unusual things, that Mercury and Mars energy can bring about that as well. But it's just a lot of movement here and spontaneous plans. And if you like spontaneity, then that's going to happen for you, especially with that Mercurial energy. Mercurial energy is kind of unstable, man. Switches up a lot. And, but it's a good way. It's a good way that we're happening here, because these are lucky breaks that are happening. So, I mean, that's what I got for you, you guys. There is enjoyment. There's fulfillment. There's good conversations. It's fun. It's a lot of good times, sunshine, happiness, 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 right? That is what I see for you all when it comes to what we're laying out here in the cards. Trying to think, is there anything else I need to add when it comes to your lucky break that you might be experiencing? proactive communication. If things have been dead, if you meet people who are kind of avoidant or they don't speak up, then you're getting someone who's proactively, like, I text you, I call you, whatever, you know, all of that, all the good things. I say whatever, but I don't mean like whatever, this is bad. I mean like whatever, this is good. But yeah, that's what I have for you about number 4. Hopefully you like this lucky break. And I also love that we got the sign of Sagittarius here, and we got every single major arcana. Like, that is wild to get the Star, the Magician, and Temperance, and the Tower as this lucky break. And I should say on the Astro-Tarot deck, the Tower has already hit. And it's almost as if all of these things from the past have already crumbled. You know, it's not no longer going back to the place that you used to be in. You know, if you think that things have been unsteady or your love life hasn't been the place where you want it to be, then it's like saying one lucky break is that chapter of your life is over. Also, I want to say one thing about the Star card. It's like renewed faith, right? A boost in morale. And so part of this lucky break is that you meet people who reignite your hope. So if you've been a little bit jaded or lost or bitter about love, then it's like, okay, you're meeting people who spark that hope again. So I want to say that. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could say. And I will see you next time. If you want a private reading from me, feel free to go to the link in the description bar below. We can expand on the type of reading. You know, normally during a private reading, I might even throw in some numerology and, you know, add up all the numbers to see what we get here, what the overall vibe and this message could be for this reading. Also, you know, I may use my Nextetra cards to get into more detail, as the Nextetra cards are very refined. And when it comes to the events that they predict, I find them to be highly accurate. You know, that's just my opinion. But I will see you next time, guys. Au revoir. Hey, about number 5, last but not least. Let's get into your lucky break in love. We have the 2 of Swords. We have the Devil. We have the 5 of Pentacles. And we have the World card on the Astro-Tarot deck here. Wow. All right. So when we are looking at your lucky break when it comes to love, this 2 of Swords energy, I love it because we see the 2 of Swords to represent like a choice that you have to make. A decision where you might feel like you are split between maybe your old self and your future self. And that seems to be something that to some degree is coming up, but it's a little bit different here. For your circumstance, it's like making a choice to acknowledge certain areas that maybe you can improve upon or change or transform or aren't so great. Maybe this is like your mindset. And the reason I'm saying this is because we have this Devil card. And so it's like, what are we thinking about here? We have the 2 of Swords, who's somebody who's in deep contemplation, trying to make a choice. What are they trying to make a choice about? The Devil here. The Devil thing is self-sabotage. It's fear. It's anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm trapped in this loop of addiction and suffering. And, you know, I am binding myself, essentially, to something that's not good for me. And so when we look at that, what is happening in your daily life, this sense of luck that is occurring, this is finally seeing this decision very clearly. It's something you're no longer avoiding. It's evaluating, and you're evaluating what is staying and what is going when it comes to your dating life. This is, how do I say this? This is you becoming aware of these patterns that you may have within your dating life, whether that's self-sabotage, whether that's a fear-based thinking, whether that's choosing partners who don't treat you the best, whether that is some sort of emotional habits that you get caught in. Sometimes it's insecure attachment, sometimes it's an avoidant attachment, whether this is a scarcity thinking when it comes to love and feeling like you need to prove yourself, or, you know, attaching yourself to people who don't want you, who who don't have the best intentions, who don't show that they care, or there's so many different flaws we all have, right? And so this lucky break in love has to do with addressing those flaws. Now, I think some of those flaws might have a sense to do with scarcity and insecurity, just because we have that Five of Pentacles there. And when we have the Five of Pentacles, it's like you've been given the short end of the stick. And sometimes when you're in a place where you're getting the short end of the stick for too long, you start thinking that's the way things are and that's the way things always will be. For example, I got the Five of Pentacles actually quite recently to deal with a situation where I was sort of negotiating a price. And they had quoted me one price, and then the next day they went up in that price. And I'm just like, that doesn't really seem fair to me, right? But had I stayed in that Five of Pentacles energy, I would have just said, there's nothing you can do about that, right? I mean, I guess the price is just the price. It's just what we got to deal with here, you know? But that's not happening for you anymore. You're saying, enough is enough. I'm not dealing with these situations anymore. I'm not coming from this place of just saying, accepting these circumstances that give me too little. That I'm dating people who don't emotionally support me, that don't show up for me. I'm dating people who don't take care of themselves, whether that be, physically, mentally, whatever. Or I'm dating people who put in low effort or something like that. But there is this power shift where you're no longer fussing with this type of human being or relationship or connections. This is forward momentum and expansion, right? You're not normalizing being deprived of love. You're not tolerating anything that shows that you don't matter. Like if someone is just sending you on their way, they are emotionally absent, if they're leaving you in the cold, if they don't care about you, if they're not showing that affection, that consistency, if they're just being untrue to their word, even if they're breaking promises, something as simple as like saying, hey, I'll call you then, and then they don't call. Okay, what happened? Or, hey, let's make plans for this day. Then there's no plans. It's just like you're no longer tolerating that BS. You put this behavioral line in the sand saying, I'm not going to absorb any imbalance anymore. That's just not going to be the case. So that's something that I see when it comes to what is unfolding for you in the sense of luckiness and love. And this is a very great and important lesson that's going to allow you to have a lot more success within your love life, especially since we have the After Tarot deck and the World card here. I really do think that when we have the After Tarot deck, they're more happy than ever. Usually they have the symbols of Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius on the cards. So the human, the bird, the Taurus, the bull, and the lion. And here we have the elements of the Magician card, which to me feels like you're connecting to this place of new start and renewal, and you're ready to transform into that new stage coming into your life. The one thing that I see here when it comes to things that are sort of Saturnian energy, because the World card connects to Saturn, is Saturn will generally bring this sense of leveling up, right? So quite literally, you might level up in appearance. You might level up in mindset. You might level up in spiritual growth. Saturn wants you to level up in every single place possible. It's like, I want you to see your flaws. I want you to see the worst of the worst. And then I want you to move on from it. Where we have that here. We have that with that Two of Pentacles. We see that you're doing the reflection. We see that you're doing the work and you're like, you know what? I could change X, Y, and Z about me and transform your whole life here. No more dealing with the bad boy, bad woman, whatever the case may be. And you're picking people who are successful. Sometimes it's quite literal. Sometimes if we get out of this space of being emotionally or spiritually absent, sometimes the cards are just literal. And it's just like, no more brokies, You're dating people who are successful, who people find to be highly accomplished, who are very worldly, very well traveled, highly educated. Like sometimes it's literally quite that literal, and you're just like, I'm not dealing with people who don't seem to value the same things I do within my life. I'm not dealing with these people who are maybe outsiders of society, meaning they might reject those norms. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rejecting the norms of, you know, wanting to work a 9-to-5 and get a 6-figure job or whatever like that. But maybe for you, that gets a little bit exhausting. And so you're just like, I don't want that. I want somebody who's actually more structured and stable and who doesn't want to live on the outskirts. One thing we also see here when it comes to the devil, because the devil's not all bad, right? Like, I've seen the devil just to connect to like very strong physical attraction, right? And so if you feel like that has been absent from your dating life, like maybe you're somebody who tends to date for personality, the devil card is like, hey, you finally get the opportunity to be with someone who you really feel like you connect with both on a personality level and physically. So I do want to say that. And honestly, I think this is a moment of acknowledgement, because when we get the 5 of Pentacles, sometimes this shows that we've been neglected within our dating lives. And so the next stage here is almost like you are being under a microscope. So you go from this place of like having been neglected by partners, having been rejected, having been out in the cold, having not been chosen, whatever, to the space where you're seen as like this prize and you're being paid attention to and you're being acknowledged and people are pursuing you, you know, because the World card is this big successful person. They're just like, oh my goodness, this person has a lot going on. I kind of think that this is great. So the World card feels chosen. They feel respected. They feel as though they're being prioritized. And I think that this is coming for you within your own dating life. We also have this, how do I say? To me, it feels as though you no longer have to negotiate your desires or your wants. You get opportunity to have your needs met within a relationship completely and fully. Like I said, it's no longer the example I gave you with the quote for the whatever, the payment I had to make. It's like you no longer get this short end of the stick. You no longer have to negotiate for the bare minimum. You make sure you're with people who can provide you exactly what you need and who can show up for the things that they promised. And I love the thing about the Devil card energy is it can be very strict because it has that Capricorn energy. It's got those chains there. Like, it's like we're locked in here. So to me, it feels like you're really setting those standards and sticking to it. And maybe at first it feels uncomfortable because all 5s, you know, they represent that change, and change can be kind of scary. But you quickly get used to it, to be completely honest. I don't feel like this is you going through this long period and trials and tribulations of learning more lessons. I feel like that stage is pretty much coming to a close because you are turning yourself away from these old patterns and behaviors of your past, and you're moving on to a place where you have outstanding chemistry, deep connection, maybe even meeting people with deep pockets. I don't know. Sometimes the cards are very literal. And then no longer being in a scarcity mindset, getting more reciprocity within a relationship. And honestly, I just think that there's more coming. You know, it's less grinding, less test results. Less grinding, less tests, and more just like building towards something that is stable. You know, that matters. At least that's what I'm getting here from this card. I think that this is a real shift in your life. And to go from the Devil to the World card is absolutely incredible, because it's like you've hit rock bottom. You will have to hit the rock bottom of the Tower moment and face the truth, and then boom, you're coming out on top. So for example, you know, you go on a first date where they have the reservations made, the plans are clear, there's follow-up, there's consistent, there's genuine interest, the interaction makes sense, they're asking you questions, whatever the case may be. Things flow. You meet someone who likes to travel. You guys have maybe similar professional goals. You both seem to really want to engage in something stable. There's no hot and cold behavior. You're like, okay, we want to build a connection, a relationship, and that is what we're going to go for, and we're going to treat this like mature adults, you know. That's what I see here. But I really do feel like these are all positive things coming for you, pal number 5. I don't think there's anywhere else I need to expand further on when it comes to these cards. I think that is the overarching feel to it. I mean, yeah, you guys don't have like a bunch of different crazy transformations that you need to undergo. And I think, like I said, you're kind of aware of this pattern and this thought process and already, which is probably why your luck is going to change so significantly relatively soon. And obviously, like I said before, of all the pals, I just feel like this pal is really attracting some really strong suitors who really want to get to know them. As I said, that World card is very, very successful. Everyone sees it. Everyone's like, oh, wow, this person's out on top. They've got everything in the palm of their hand. You know, they're the center of the universe here. Like, you have some really good qualities that people are seeing, and they're acknowledging it. So they're no longer in this space of not being acknowledged. You're being acknowledged and recognized now. But that is what I have for you. And if you want a deeper dive into what could possibly be unfolding in terms of luckiness when it comes to your love life, feel free to get a private reading. And the private readings, we do a deeper dive. We'll talk about the numerology. We'll get a little bit deeper into the astrology here. For example, we have Saturn and we have Capricorn. Saturn and Capricorn here, right? When you have Saturn going through the sign of Capricorn, you can sort of read that as the 10th house of career, goals, achievement. And when that's going through that house, it's cleaning up any sort of, how do I say this? Your reputation that doesn't align with you. So if you've had a little bit of a rough reputation, for example, maybe you're just known to be being this like mousy woman who doesn't speak up for themselves. Saturn goes to the 10th house and changes that reputation to like, oh, she's a baddie and she's got a little sass to her, right? So we know that that is part of the luck when it comes to your 10th house that you're reading here, where you are having your whole reputation transformed, and that's causing this improvement within your love life, and that's the thing that's gaining you luck. So we talk about these types of things in the private readings. So if you're interested in that, feel free to get one. Also, if you don't want a private reading, let's say you just want a quick question and you want to just, you know things that aren't too deep, but you're just like, I just need a little clarity real quick, join the lives and you can ask a question. You can ask a tarot question. You can ask an astrology question. We are doing the astrology now this time. I know I do a lot of tarot on this channel, but trust me, this is Astro-Tarot research. I love astrology. And speaking of astrology, sometimes during the lives, we do astrology readings for your 12 signs. So if you want your own personal horoscope here for the lives and what could be possibly coming up, then boom, come on and join. I would love to see you there. And also don't forget to become a channel member. The stargazers get access to what could be unfolding for the next month and the next month, the next month, and the yearly and the seasonals. And they also get other experimental readings that maybe I can't show on the front page because YouTube will penalize me, but they get all of the unique reading ideas that I come up with. And obviously I try to make sure that I pay attention to you guys, and your comments do tend to get prioritized as a stargazer. Anyway, that is what I have to say, and I hope to see you next time, pal number 5. Au revoir.